So you're going to be writing equations of lines in slope-intercept form and in point-slope form. Okay, so you can write an equation of a line if you are given any of the following information. Okay, so if you're given the slope, which we call m, and the y-intercept, you can write an equation of that line. If you're given the slope, and the coordinates of a point on that line, you can write an equation of a line. The last one, if you're given the coordinates of 2 points on that line, you can find the slope, and then you can use that one of those points to find the equation of that line as well. Okay, so those are the things that you need to look for when you're finding an equation of a line. So if m is the slope of the line, b is its y-intercept. Okay, so m is the slope, b is the y-intercept, and x sub 1 and y sub 1 is a point that's on that line. Our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, your point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Okay, so you usually see this one a lot. Okay, you have your slope and your y-intercept, hence slope-intercept form. Here, you have your slope and a point on that line. Okay, your point is x sub 1, y sub 1, hence point-slope form. Okay, so point-slope has a point in your slope, slope-intercept has a slope and your y-intercept. All right, so going through an example, so we want to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so we're using this one right here, y equals mx plus b. In this first one, we're given a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 4. Okay, so m is our slope, that's -2. Y-intercept is our b value in that form. Okay, that's 4. So we can write out that equation of a line. So we'll have y equals, our m value is -2, x plus our b value is 4.
That's it.
Yeah. Next one, we have a slope of 9, so m will be 9, and a y-intercept of 2/3, so our b value is 2/3. Again, we're writing this in slope-intercept, so using y equals mx plus b, so we can replace m with 9 and b with 2/3. So we have y is equal to 9x plus 2/3. Okay, so those are the ones where you're given the slope and the y-intercept already. Questions on those? All right, example 2, we're writing our equation in point-slope form. So that's this second one right here. Okay, so you're using y sub 1 and x sub 1 in there. So in letter A, we're given our slope is -3/4. So we still have m is equal to -3/4. Now with point-slope form, you have a point. Okay, that's x sub 1, y sub 1. Okay, that's this point right here. Okay, so that will be equal to 8, 1. So now again, I just want to plug in what I know into that form up there. So we still have y minus our y sub 1 here will be 1. That's equal to our slope m is -3/4 times the quantity, x stays the same, minus our x sub 1. X sub 1 is 8 and end our parenthesis. And then we'll just leave it like that since it wanted it in point slope form. Okay, so we're just plugging things in to create our equation. Questions on that one?
No.
Okay, then letter B. We have a slope of 5 and contains a y-intercept of 6. Okay, so our slope, m, is 5. Now, we're writing this in point slope form. So I want to write this y-intercept as an ordered pair. Okay, what would the ordered pair of a y-intercept look like? Yes. Okay. So our coordinate point for that y-intercept is 0, 6. Okay, so that is our x sub 1, y sub 1 point for our equation. Okay, now again, just using that point slope form, we have y minus y sub 1 is 6. That's equal to our slope, 5, times the quantity x minus x sub 1 is 0. And we'll leave it like that so it stays in point slope form. Questions? All right, on the back, for example 3, we're going back to slope intercept. Make sure you are reading your directions and deciding which equation here to use. So since we're looking at slope intercept, that's our y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so letter A here, we're given 2 points. Okay, so this time you don't have the slope and you don't have the y-intercept. Okay, so that means we need to find the slope. So we're going to use our slope equation. Okay, so y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. We're going to use our points up here. Okay, so we have y sub 2, 0, minus y sub 1 is 6. X sub 2 is negative 2, minus x sub 1 is 3. So I have negative 6 over negative 5. I have a negative over a negative, that is positive. So our slope is 6/5.
Bless you.
Okay, so next I need to find the y-intercept or that b value in my equation. So I'm going to use my slope and my equation. Y equals our m is 6/5 times x, and we need to find this b value here. Well, x and y are just our coordinates, okay? So I can plug in one of these 2 points for x and y. I'm going to choose this one right here just because it has a 0 in it. That's usually easier to work with. Okay, so negative 2 will be my x value and 0 will be my y value. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 0 for y. I still have 6 over 5 as my slope. I'll plug in negative 2 for x and add on b. I'm doing this so that I can solve for that b value. Okay? I need to find what that y-intercept is. So here I can multiply these two together. Okay, I'm running out of room. So I have 0 equals negative 12 over 5 plus b. So when you're multiplying, you just multiply that numerator there. Now to get b by itself, what should I do? Add 12/5 to both sides. Okay, it cancels over here. Okay, so we'll have b is equal to 12/5. Okay, our last step here is to write out the equation of the line. So now we have m and we have b. Okay, so we'll have y equals, our slope is 6/5, x plus our b value is 12/5. Okay, and that would be our equation of that line. It's all coming back to you?
No.
All right, I want you guys to do letter B here. So same process as letter A for example 3. You're finding it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so first find the slope, then the y-intercept, then write out that equation. Hey, did you? Oh, okay.
Negative 8 times 0. Negative 20, negative 24 over 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8.
All right, so looking at letter B here, first you wanted to find this slope. Okay, so your slope should be negative 8/3. Okay. Finding your y-intercept, you didn't actually need to find it. It's right here. Okay, so your y-intercept is 8. So if you noticed that, great. If you didn't, that's fine. You probably still found it by plugging in a point. Okay, so your y-intercept, you should have gotten 8. So writing out this equation, we have y equals negative 8/3 x plus 8. Okay, questions on letter B? It's still good practice to plug in that point and find 8. All right, last two here. Again, we want to write these equations in slope-intercept. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. Okay, so now what they're giving us is the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, so in order to find this slope, I want to write these as coordinate points. Okay, so your x-intercept, this one will be at 3, 0. Your y-intercept will be at 0, 7. Okay, so if you get problems like these, write them in your coordinate point form there. So now what I can do is find the slope. So we'll take y sub 2, 7, minus y sub 1 is 0, over x sub 2 is 0, minus x sub 1 is 3. So we'll get 7 over negative 3. So that's our slope. Okay, they already gave us the y-intercept is 7. Okay, so b is equal to 7. And then I can plug that into my equation. So I have y equals negative 7/3 x plus 7.
That's not that hard.
No. What if I asked you to find the slope that's parallel to this one? What would it be? It would be the same thing. So it would be negative 7/3. Okay? If I asked you to put it through a different coordinate point, so say it wasn't these two, but it was a different one, how would you find your y-intercept? Like what we did up here. Okay? So if I ask you to find a line parallel to this one, and it goes through, I don't know, point negative 2, 1. Okay? You have to find a different y-intercept. They will not have the same y-intercept. You would have to plug in that point for x and y and find your y-intercept and then write out your equation. Okay, I think you have a couple problems on your homework like that. Does that make sense? Same thing with perpendicular, except you take the opposite reciprocal slope first. Okay, then plug in the point it wants you to go through, whatever point that is, for x and y, find your y-intercept, and then write out your equation. Okay, so it's just a couple extra steps there. Okay, last one I want you to do. Okay, so you're given the x-intercept of negative 5 and y-intercept of negative 9. Find the equation of that line.
This is Colin. I have a question about for B. Wouldn't it be negative 8 because like by 3 I'm top by the numerator negative 8 and divide by 3.
You're plugging in this point?
Yeah. Like you'd have negative 8 then times 3, which is negative 24.
So you'd
And minus
multiply
3.
this by 3, so this would be negative 8, and this would be 0. You have to add 8 to this side to get b by itself.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got that.
Okay, for letter B, this is the equation of your line. Okay? What I want you to do now, before you get started on your assignment, I know some of you have already started, that's okay. I want you to find the equation of the line parallel to this line and through the point -5, 2. Okay, so you need to use this slope. You need to find your new y-intercept for that line. Okay, so line parallel to the one you just found and through that given point. Go on. All right, so with your parallel line, you need the same slope. Okay, so that means I'm still using -9/5. Okay, now I'm going to use this point here as my x and y value. Okay, so I'm going to plug in -5 for x and 2 for y. So I have 2 is equal to -9/5 times -5 plus b. You're not going to get the same y-intercept, okay? So your y-intercept should not be the same as before. So now I can cross these out. I have a negative times a negative. That's positive. So we have 2 is equal to 9 plus b. Subtract 9. So b will be -7. Okay, so now I can write that as, or use that to write out my equation of this line. So we would have y equals -9/5 x minus 7. Okay, it has that same slope, but your y-intercept is different because it has to go through this point. Okay, I think there's a couple problems on your assignment like that, so make sure you're paying attention to those. At